welcome to Axiom Flux News on the 21st of March 2015. And with me on the panel is Blackhole Bridger, myself, I is PJ, and we're going to start off with Blackhole with some information on CERN.
Good evening, everybody. Blackhole here. Tonight's article is all about CERN. And this article has been written by Patrick Henderson of the 21st Century Wire. And the event horizon: will CERN's Hadron Collider make contact with another dimension? CERN's Large Hadron Collider, due for final completion this year, the international project has captured the imaginations of science enthusiasts as well as science fiction enthusiasts. The collider's power has been doubled now, and it will have many times more power than any other comparable facility in the world. And with that power comes many other unknown potentials. Scientists at CERN believe that next week's experiment in search of the highly elusive Higgs boson, aka the God particle, could be a game changer. So let's go and see what the Higgs boson is, for those that are not certain or heard of it and wondering what the heck is it. What exactly is the Higgs boson? Particle physics usually has eaten with policies and celebrity gossip for headlines. But the Higgs boson has garnered some serious attention. That's exactly what happened on July the 4th of 2012. Though when scientists at CERN announced that they'd found a particle that they believed the way they expect the Higgs boson to behave may be the famed boson's grand and controversial nickname, the God particle, has kept media outlets buzzing. Then again, intriguing possibilities that the Higgs boson is responsible for all the mass in the universe rather captures the imagination too. Or perhaps we're simply excited to learn more about our world. And we know that if the Higgs boson does exist, we'll unravel the mystery a little more. In order to truly understand what the Higgs boson is, however, we need to examine one of the most prominent theories describing the way the cosmos works. The standard model. The model comes to us by the way of particle physics, a field filled with physicists dedicated to reducing our complicated universe to its most basic building blocks. It's a challenge we've been tackling for centuries, and we've made lots of progress. First we discovered atoms, then protons, neutrons and electrons, and finally quarks and leptons. More on those later, but the universe doesn't only contain matter, it also contains forces that act upon the matter. The standard model has given us more insight into the types of matter and forces than perhaps any other theory we have. Here's the gist of the standard model, which was developed in the early 1970s. Our entire universe is made of 12 different matter particles and 4 forces. The source of this comes from the European Organisation for Nuclear Research. Among those 12 particles, you'll encounter 6 quarks and 6 leptons. Quarks are more than make up protons and neutrons, while members of the lepton family include the electron and the electron neutrino, its neutrality charge counterpart. Scientists think that leptons and quarks are indivisible, that you can't break them apart into smaller particles. Along with all those particles, the standard model also acknowledges 4 forces: gravity, electromagnetic, strong and weak. As the theories go, the standard model has been very effective, aside from its failure to fit in gravity. Armed with it, physicists have predicted the existence of certain particles years before they were verified empirically. Unfortunately, the model still has another missing piece. The Higgs boson. What is it? And why is it necessary for the universe the standard model describes to work? Let's find out. Anyway, we'll go back to the main article. Sorry about these guys, I seem to have lost myself here. Of course, sorry my friends. AKA the God particle. Could be a game changer, yes?
I was just going to say, you might have lost your track, but not as much as these guys. These have completely lost it.
Yeah, they're definitely off their rockers. Anyway, I like that, PJ. The God particle could be a game changer. The questions are swirling right now. Top of the list is, will the collider be used to hack into a modern Pandora's box? And what are the risks, if any, involved? Other inquisitors are asking, is it a stargate? In other words, can it transcend a multi-dimensional universe to explore new realms of quantum physics? For those that don't know what a Pandora's box is, we'll go back into a little bit of mythology here. Just very quickly. Before this begins, let me say that some people object to the title Pandora's box and insist it should be Pandora's jar. They may have a reason based on what he saw he wrote, but myths change with the retelling and people are accustomed to Pandora's box. So I shall use the term. In this, my retelling of the myth of Pandora and her box. The background to the story of Pandora's box is the Titan Prometheus, passion aggressive towards the king of the gods, Zeus. Having gotten away with or having paid the price for one misdeed, Prometheus kept going back for more. Zeus was very creative in the way he meted out punishments. Pandora was one example. The gift of Pandora. Prometheus was mankind's benefactor. In fact, it was said that Prometheus was the person that gave us fire. And this is one of the reasons why he was punished for it, because he wasn't supposed to have given us fire. The king of the god wasn't crazy about us and didn't want us to have, among other things, fire. Prometheus, on the other hand, wanted good things for us. So stealthily, he brought us the gift of fire. In return, Zeus presented a man with a gift. Pandora, the first woman. While Prometheus may have crafted man, woman was a different sort of creature. She came from the forge of Hesperus, beautiful as a goddess and beguiling. Thanks to traits bestowed upon Athena and Zeus, Zeus presented her as the bride to Prometheus. Brother Prometheus had the gift of thinking ahead, but Epimetheus was only capable of afterthought. So Prometheus, expecting retribution for his audacity, had warned his brother against accepting gifts from Zeus. No, this is not the origin of the expression, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Zeus gave the gods crafted Pandora as a bride for Epimetheus. along with a box with a warning label telling the couple never to open it. Epiphanius was dazzled by his bride. Pandora, perhaps, he thought, he forgot the advice of his prescient brother. Perhaps he thought they were supposed to hold the box in safekeeping for Zeus against his return. That wasn't a gift at all. Pandora opens the box. Epiphanius insisted that his wife obey the letter of the label. Unfortunately, one day Pandora's husband left her side for a few hours. Only a few hours. Pandora was gifted with curiosity, as much as the other attributes given her by the gods. For her, the box was a gift, not something to be kept in trust. What business had Zeus to tell her not to open it? Perhaps she listened to her brother-in-law's tales of tricking the king of the gods. Perhaps she saw nothing to fear. Maybe if she just took a quick peek, looking around to make sure no one was watching, she opened the box Zeus had given them. Just a crack. As Pandora did so, ghostly forms gushed forth from the crack. Pandora had unleashed all the evils now known to man. No longer could man loll about all day. He would have to work and would succumb to illnesses. At the very bottom of the container was the last thing to come out. Was it a fortune cookie, PJ? It was something that wasn't evil. It may have been a fortune cookie. We call the good that Pandora unleashed by the name of hope. So that is Pandora's box. So basically Pandora's box is you don't know what you're going to get if you open it. Right, let's go back to the main article. I'll go back to the right bit this time, PJ. Anyway, we'll see. Until then, the questions will keep coming. That's just part of the Hadron Collider, and they liken it to the Stargate. Scientists at the Large Hadron Collider hope to make contact with parallel universe in days. This is by Peter Baldwin of the Express newspapers. The staggeringly complex Large Hadron Collider with an atom smasher at the CERN Centre in Geneva, Switzerland, will be fired up to its highest energy levels ever in a bid to detect or even create miniature black holes. If successful, a completely new universe will be revealed, rewriting not only the physics books, but the philosophy books too. It is even possible that gravity from our own universe may leak into this parallel universe, or even the other way. it may leak out. Scientists at the Large Hadron Collider say the experiment is sure to inflame alarmists, critics of the Large Hadron Collider, many of whom initially warned the high-energy particle collider would spell the end of their universe, with the creation of a black hole of its own. As a bit like the Manhattan Project, they were taking bets, Oppenheimer and all his cohorts, back in 1945 when they done the first testing of the atom bomb. Bets were laid down whether the world was going to totally incinerate or not. This is how mad these scientists are.
Well,
anyway, we will proceed.
I was just going to say, black hole. If we get many mini black hole bridges, then let them crack on.
Well, I tend to think your way. You don't want many more of me, my old mucker. But next week's experiment is considered to be a game changer. Because one of these three strong team of physicists behind the experiment said just as many parallel sheets of paper which are two-dimensional objects, breadth and length, can exist in a third dimension, height. Parallel universe can also exist in higher dimensions. We predict that gravity can leak into extra dimensions. Yeah, but can it just leak into extra dimensions, or will extra dimensions leak into our realm? This is my question. Anyway, let's proceed. And if it does, the miniature black holes can be produced at the Large Hadron Collider. Oh, so many black holes. Normally, when people think of the multiverse, they think of many worlds in interpretation of quantum mechanics, where every possibility is actualized. This cannot be tested, and so it is a philosophy and not science. This is not what we mean by parallel universe. What we mean is real universes in extra dimensions. So, what is the Higgs boson which they're looking for? Yeah, so what exactly is the Higgs boson? Particle physics usually has a hard time competing with politics and celebrity gossip for headlines, but the Higgs boson has garnered some serious attention. That's exactly what happened on July the 4th of 2012. Though when scientists at CERN announced that they found a particle they believed the way they expect the Higgs boson to behave, maybe the famed boson's grand and controversial nickname, the God particle, has kept media outlets buzzing. Then again, the intriguing possibility that the Higgs boson is responsible for all the mass in the universe rather captures the imagination too. Or perhaps we're simply excited to learn about our world, and we know that if the Higgs boson does exist, we'll unravel the mystery a little more.
It's like something out of it.
Say again, PJ?
I was going to say it's like something out of a Marvel's comic.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely out of somebody's deep end of their mind, isn't it? I mean, to actually consider doing this when they're still not certain of the outcomes, it's rather baffling. I mean, surely you should err on the side of caution. Not go ahead and do something when you don't know what the outcome's going to be, when it could be something as drastic as burning up the whole of the world. In order to truly understand what the Higgs boson is, however, we need to examine one of the most prominent theories describing the way the cosmos works. The standard model. The model comes to us by the way of particle physics. A field filled with physicists and dedicated to reducing our complicated universe to its most basic building blocks is a challenge we've been tackling for centuries, and we made a lot of progress. First we discovered atoms, then protons, neutrons and electrons, and finally quarks and leptons. I believe I've already done this bit, have I not, PJ?
I think you did, Jay, when you started it.
Yeah, I've got myself. Yes, you're dead right. Yes, it should have been this one, the next tab. So, what exactly is the Higgs boson? Part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right, the Higgs boson, the final piece of the puzzle. As it turns out, scientists think each one of those four fundamental forces has a corresponding carrier particle, or boson, that acts upon matter. That's a hard concept to grasp. We tend to think of forces as mysterious, ethereal things that straddle the line between existence and nothingness. But in reality, they are as real as the matter itself. Some physicists have described bosons as weights anchored by mysterious rubber bands to the matter particles that generate them. Using this analogy, we can think of the particles constantly snapping back out of existence in an instant, and yet equally capable of getting entangled with other rubber bands attached to the other bosons and imparting force in the process. But for every action there's an equal reaction, is there not? Scientists think each of the four fundamental ones has its own specific bosons. Electromagnetic fields, for instance, depends on the photon to transit electromagnetic force to matter. Physicist thinks the Higgs bosons might have a similar function, but transferring mass itself. Can't matter just inherently have mass without the Higgs boson confusing things? Not according to the standard model, but physicists have found a solution. What if all particles have no inherent mass, but instead gain mass by passing through a field? This field, known as a Higgs field, could affect different particles in different ways. Photons could slide through unaffected, while Whiskey and Zulu bosons would get bogged down with mass. In fact, assuming the Higgs boson exists, everything that has mass gets it by interacting with the all-powerful Higgs field, which occupies the entire universe. Like the other fields covered by the standard model, the Higgs one would need a carrier particle to affect other particles, and the particle is known as the Higgs boson. On July the 4th of 2012, scientists working at the Large Hadron Collider announced their discovery of a particle that believes the way the Higgs boson should behave. The results, while published in a high degree of certainty, are still somewhat preliminary. Some researchers are calling the particle Higgs-like until the findings and the data stand up to more scrutiny. Regardless, this finding could usher in a period of rapid discovery about our universe. I think it's incredulous that they're going ahead and they have got no idea whatsoever what they're doing. Anyway, on that note,
I think CERN must stand.
Say again?
I think CERN must stand for complete, exaggerated, regurgitated nonsense.
Yeah, it is. As the top physicist actually now admits, and here we go, this is a top physicist, and he actually says, we honestly have no fucking idea what we're doing, amidst leading quantum physicists. Theoretical quantum physicist Dr. Amit Goswami admitted today that he and his peers have absolutely no fucking idea what they're doing, and claims that they were no nearer than prehistoric man to figuring out the universe. We have just been winging it, to tell you the truth, explained a 78-year-old in an exclusive interview with WWN. That's being who has written the article, which is the Waterford Whispers News, that we're interviewing him. Seriously, I haven't a clue what's going on. If there's anyone else in my field, we keep proving stuff that never actually happened. Our cover is blown, what can I say, he added. Mr. Goswami's comments came after yet another alleged breakthrough in the quantum mechanics, which claims the universe has existed forever, as opposed to being created by a Big Bang. Over the years, we have been that happens, sorry, just a handful of us pretending to know something about the universe that no one else does, he went on. But this is all lies to feed a charade. I've had some great times during the years, travelling around the world and giving talks on our potential finds. When asked how he got away with it for so long, he replied, I found out a long time ago that everything can be proven with a mathematical equation. Now I mean everything, from unicorns, fire-breathing dragons, God and even the G-spot. None of it is true. Me and the handful that know the truth have been riding the quantum physicist celebrity wave for quite some time now. But it must end before someone gets hurt. The University of Oregon professor warned that the European Organisation for Nuclear Research, known as CERN, could potentially wipe out the entire planet if the project is not put to an halt. Seriously, when myself, Higgs and Benjamin Lockspear, CERN's first president, first pitched the idea, we never thought it would get funding. It was going to cost billions, for Christ's sake. He recalled, Flux knows what the thing does. No one does. Firing particles each other at the speed of light can't end well. I'm just worried now we took the joke too far. Ending the interview, Professor Goswami apologised for spoofing everybody over the years. He also added, I'm coming near to the end of my days now, and I just want to get this off my chest, he said. I just hope the world can forgive us. God blimey. They don't know what they're doing. And it also concerns me because, as they say, the gravity leaking out is what might be coming in. If we're ripping into other dimensions, what are we allowing into our own dimension? It's absolutely crazy. But anyway, I'll leave you to think and ponder on this. And we've only got a week or so to go before they fire this Hadron Collider up. And it's at double strength now to what it was the last time they fired it up. So, love your kids, love everybody, love everything around you. And with that note, I will pass over to you, PJ.
There you go, thank you, Blackhole. Me personally, Blackhole, I don't think there's anything to really worry about. I think it's just so overrated. Distraction, really, just need to distract you.
Yeah, but even if there's anything to worry about or not, just carry on loving.
That's it. Right, I will load mine up. Should have already had it up by now, but no, it's not. Okay, so my first one is from the RT, and it's primary schools ban kids from watching the solar eclipse that happened yesterday for cultural and religious reasons. In fact, quite a lot of my articles are from yesterday, as we didn't do a Flux News, so I have got quite a bit for us to talk about. So a primary school in West London has admitted to banning children from watching the first solar eclipse of the century because of concerns of cultural and religious sensitivities. Students at a North Primary School in Southall were not allowed to view the rare cosmic event outside, but were instead made to watch on TV screens in the classroom. Ealing Council, the local authority, said each school was responsible for its own policies concerning the eclipse. Parent Phil Bellman, whose 7-year-old daughter goes to the school, accused them of giving in to superstition. Bellman said, "This morning I heard for religious and cultural reasons the kids were going to be banned from any part in the eclipse." He said he rang the school to demand an explanation from the head teacher, Ivo Johnston. I was put through to him straight away and he confirmed it, religious and cultural reasons. I said that was totally outrageous. I asked him to elaborate and he refused, Bellman said. "I am extremely upset about it. My child went in having spent an hour preparing and making up a pinhole camera. This is an issue about scientific matters versus religious superstition. I am outraged. Is it going to be Darwin next? Will we be like Mid-America?" he added. Johnston said in this statement, "The school made this decision when we became aware of religious and cultural concerns associated with observing an eclipse directly. Although we are sorry for any disappointment, pupils were still able to watch the eclipse on screens in classrooms. However, the overcast conditions in West London today meant they would have not been able to see it live in any case." North Primary School, which has no religious affiliation, has yet to elaborate on which religions or cultures deem looking at a solar eclipse to be offensive. In our contact with the school, a spokesperson said it had no comment. Social media users in the UK expressed their bafflement at the news. One Twitter user poked fun at the announcement, while another voiced disappointment.
I'm gobsmacked. I'm gobsmacked at that. I really am.
The first eclipse of the 21st century was visible across the UK and Northern Europe on Friday. In the UK, the moon obscured at least 83% of the sun, reaching its peak at 9:35 AM. The auspicious day of the rare celestial event, falling on the vernal equinox of the fortnight before a blood moon, has caused some religious commentators to suggest it's a sign from God. Pastor Mark Blitz, author of Blood Moons, Decoding the Imminent Heavenly Signs, said the eclipse was a message of the heavenly displeasure with Europeans for criticizing Israel. Speaking to US news website WorldNet Daily, he said, "In Jewish tradition, a total solar eclipse is a warning to the Gentiles and a sign of judgment on the nations. When we look at where the darkness will be in the northern European countries like England and Sweden, where we see the rise of Islam and anti-Israel sentiment. Europeans especially should take heed," he added. Well, just to top it off, if the headline wasn't, bad enough here. So, is it taking away education? They've got no chance of seeing this event now, have they? So, they spent over an hour to make a cardboard with a pinhole, and I thought it would have been educational whether they got sunlight or not. What would you think, Paul?
Well, what a great day for kids to be able to look at the sun through a pinhole on a card and to show and to teach them not to look directly at the sun, and they can see the moon covering the sun that's 400 times smaller than the sun, exact distance. I mean, it's just incredulous that they've stopped the children from seeing this. It is an actuality, and the children should be able to see it. It just beggars belief.
Yeah, same here. I'll share the same thoughts on that. Well, the next one is just going over the HSBC. A few days ago we had a conflict of interest. The top Telegraph writer who quits over papers' financial ties to the HSBC. So this is from the 21st Century Wire, an article by Stuart Hooper. And in 21st Century Wire says, "More bombshell revelations expose the mainstream media as a corrupt institution that should always be questioned." Yesterday, top political commentator for the UK's Telegraph, Peter Abone, resigned after accusing the outlet of being in bed with the scandal hit the HSBC. Abone believes that the Telegraph refused to adequately cover the scandal because of a lucrative advertising contract the media outlet holds with the bank. That's just the article from the Daily Telegraph there, you can see. The HSBC scandal has caused widespread outrage, yet the British government has said that it will not be investigating the bank's activities. Calls have come to classify such scandals as national security issues, but that will only lead to even less accountability and transparency for the financial sector. The last thing we need. Western media, acting as a propaganda front, has been going on for some time now. So in the most recent outrageous propaganda outburst attempted to frame Syria's Greece as a hub for terrorism and use ISIS as a pretext for wider war. Goes into some other things here. This is Peter Abone, journalist and respected political commentator for The Telegraph. Published a lengthy resignation letter in which he condemns the links between the newspaper and scandal-ridden banking giant HSBC. His letter, published online, documents years of editorial decisions marred by the paper's advertising contracts with the bank, including the decision not to follow the recent HSBC tax avoidance scandal as closely as the other media outlets, and even removing some articles from the site completely. The coverage of the HSBC in Britain's Telegraph is a fraud on its readers. If major newspapers allow corporations to influence their content for fear of losing advertising revenue, democracy itself is in peril, the letter reads. He said the pressure put on the paper to maintain advertising from HSBC was a sinister development, which blurred the traditional boundary between advertising and editorial sectors. With HSBC described as the advertiser you literally cannot afford to offend. The continuing read of the full story is over on our site. This is just a short piece to keep you in the flux of things with the fraud. Well, not really the fraud, but well, there is the fraud as well. But this one mainly is covering the avoidance of tax. So the done that one. The next one would be taking as well into Iran. As a leader doesn't need Zionist corporations to prosper. In a statement from the leader of Iran, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has said that Iran doesn't need Americans or Zionists in order to achieve development and prosperity. In various fields, the Iranian nation has proven its capabilities. It has shown that it is possible to achieve scientific and social progress as well as international influence and political dignity without reliance on the United States. Addressing a graduation ceremony for cadets at Imam Hussein University, the leader said that the Iranian nation has chosen the right path and they will continue to follow it. Ayatollah Khamenei said, despite claims made by the bullying powers against Iran, in quote, the majority of the world supports the Iranian nation. The nuclear issue of Iran's human rights record, the leader said, are merely pretexts those powers use against the Iranian nation. Through these pretexts and pressures, they are trying to dissuade the Iranian nation from resisting their bullying behavior. But this will never happen. He continued and said arrogant powers led by the United States are furious and irate that for more than 3 decades the Islamic Republic has successfully resisted their abhorrent and heinous plan to divide the world into dominant powers and submissive countries. It is this resistance, however, that has drawn nations around the world to Iran. Many governments that lack the courage to stand up to the bullying powers are gladdened by the Islamic Republicans' resistance, and they praise it, the leader said. Today, the majority of the world's people trust the Iranian nation and love this nation. The leader called the notion that the global community is embroiled in confrontation with the Islamic Republic is a fabrication. The self-proclaimed global community is the formation of a few arrogant governments under the influence of the ignominious Zionist companies. The real global community comprises the oppressed nations and governments which, due to the pressure exerted by the superpowers, lacks the courage to speak out against the bully. But if given the opportunity, its collective opposition will be expressed. The leader touched on the concerns that were prevalent some years ago about a reduction in the number of people loyal to the Islamic Republic. As it was said that at the time, the Islamic Revolution's loyalists have always outnumbered the deserters, and the younger generation of Islamic revolutionaries promise a bright future laden with progress. As it was said at the time, with that one, rather than focusing on the immediate future and not seeing beyond the end of its nose, this new generation must focus its attention on the far horizon, which includes the formation of a modern Islamic civilization. And that was the article from our Newswire and the leader of Iran speaking out. The next one, which is the one that I just can't believe, Clarkson tells live audience he's been sacked, but not that I'm bothered about that, so I don't care if he's been sacked or not, to be honest. But what's more annoying really is how this has all materialised and how people have, grabbed a hold of this Jeremy Clarkson guy and holded him up, lifted him up and supported him and backed him every step of the way through a petition with 1 million signatures. Now, I mean, 1 million signatures. I mean, how many people were protesting about Iraq war in the reign of Tony Blair? Was it over 1 million? Just over 1 million, yeah. And I think that's just says it all, really. If you want to put that as a
it just shows the priorities, doesn't it? When it comes to death and destruction, people are ignored. When it comes to somebody that's going to maybe get sacked because he's attacked somebody else, he gets supported by 1 million people.
Well, to be honest, that's not what I'm getting at. I mean, if he did attack somebody, then that should be dealt with, is a crime, because that's what it is.
It is a crime, yes.
Right. So he should be dealt with, and more strongly than on the side of what's being put out on the media. I mean, for a start, he should have just. Let's just go into this, because it says, speaking at a fundraising event in London on Thursday night, Clarkson joked with the audience as he said, I don't know when I did my last ever lap of the Top Gear test track before the effing finishing it sacked me. So after applause, the presenter apparently repeated the claim, which was caught on camera. So I'm going to play a few videos here, because I'm not interested in reading all this out. But I have got another article to link in with to show, so I think I paused that.
I did my last ever lap of the Top Gear test track before the BBC sacked me.
So there's a little short piece there. One here, Stig delivers the Clarkson petition with a tank. Would you believe it? This is how extreme it's got.
what gets me, PJ, is that a foul-mouthed attacking bigot can get all this support, yet when 1 million people come out against the war in Iraq, it gets ignored.
That's for you know, courts to deal with, Paul. I'm not getting involved in that. That's not what I'm putting across. What I'm putting across is 1 million people have signed a petition to get him his job back.
Yeah.
That's what I'm focusing on. These 1 million people that have signed this petition, and the psychology of what goes into that. That's what I'm trying to put out tonight. So with this, you know, I'll play this 35 seconds remainder and we'll take it from there. He's got right idea, look, tell me something else. He's not interested. I may be wrong. Here he is, look. So was he joking about this eventually getting the sack?
It was a stunt Top Gear would be proud of. This time a tank was Stig's chosen vehicle. As always, a large audience watched. A man dressed in a less impressive version of the outfit worn by the show's mystery driver had a message to deliver to the BBC. Bring back Jeremy Clarkson.
He may be controversial, but Jeremy Clarkson is also undoubtedly a very popular character. The BBC haven't announced what their final decision is yet, but no doubt this will only create more headaches for them.
It's the fastest growing British petition ever, in support of a man alleged to have punched a producer and who'd previously been accused of using racist language. It appears Jeremy Clarkson believes his fate is sealed.
I don't know when I did my last ever lap of the Top Gear test down before the BBC sacked me.
Here, he tells an audience at a charity event that he's been sacked. If that is the case, those behind the petition say it's the wrong decision.
We're calling him to be reinstated on behalf of the fans of Top Gear, not on behalf of Jeremy Clarkson. Why punish millions of people around the world who like Jeremy Clarkson just because he's been done something?
Because he apparently committed an act of violence.
Apparently, that's a matter for the HR department, not for the Bureau at home.
Despite nearly 1 million signatures backing him, some say that this publicity stunt was in bad taste. He may not have been the real Stig, not even his helmet was real, but he stuck to character, remaining tight-lipped.
What do you see for the future of Top Gear?
It's a question only the BBC can answer when they announce their decision next week. And Hassan, Sky News.
Oh, there you go, it's starting to get under my skin now, this. Look at that. Thanks for your support. Reinstate Clarkson petition delivered to BBC by a tank. A 17-ton Abbott tank outside the BBC broadcasting house. And all they did was a box off. Not a box of anything to cause any harm, but a box to cause many millions of people to get back in their nice comfy chairs and watch a bit of Clarkson on Top Gear. Well, anyway, moving on. You decide which is most dangerous. Irish water struggle, thousands to march against ideologically-driven water charges. So in Ireland, thousands of anti-austerity campaigners are expected to pulse through the streets of Dublin on Saturday in protest against the Irish government's controversial water charges. They warn the charges are an ideologically-driven tax that must be abolished. The water tax forms part of the Irish government's wider debt repayment plan in the wake of a crippling bank bailout that cost Irish taxpayers over €64 billion. Thousands are expected to gather in central Dublin to voice their opposition to what they say is double taxation imposed on a nation strangulated by debt. 3 separate marches highlighting the impact of austerity are planned for Saturday afternoon. which was the day gone by. Protesters will set out from Dublin's Connolly Station, Merrion Square and Euston Station and convene in a mass gathering at 1 PM in the capital's O'Connell Street. I have been looking for some information. I've been trying to get in touch with a few people from over there to get some information on what's really been going on to put across, but as of today I've not managed to receive contact with anybody in order to do that. But I've not, I'm not going to drop it. I am still going to keep it in mind to report on, so the minute I get the chance I might even try and get somebody on one episode of the Flux during the week to come to give us a good 20-minute update on what's been happening. But speaking to RT, Unite Trade Union official and Right to Water Ireland coordinators Brendan Ogle said the Irish will not put up with this ideologically driven extra tax. Some are saying it's extra tax, some are saying it's double tax, some are saying it's triple tax. So, but I think personally, it's any tax is bad tax when it's going to the hands of the corrupt and the greedy. He said the Irish government is unwilling to publicly acknowledge growing opposition to the water charges, but is terrified behind closed doors. I will insist that the majority of the population will refuse to pay this tax, which is now low. Well, that's to have negotiated, not forced on by fascist, whatever you want to term it. But they thought they had gone away with socialising 65 billion euros of private debt with a vicious 5-year austerity agenda. For 5 years, those events caused nothing less than a national collective trauma. But now the Irish people have had enough, and the government know it, he added. They certainly do. Around the world, the governments are starting to realise it. Whether they're, taking it into much thought is another thing, but there you go. So, in Dublin, gridlocked as 50,000 Irish protesters opposed the Ministry of First Water charges. As part of its water taxation policy, the Irish government set up a semi-state firm, Irish Water, in July 2013. The company is responsible for developing Ireland's water infrastructure and billing citizens for water usage. Against a backdrop of widespread poverty and a tidal wave of repossession orders surging through Irish courts, the firm has launched a €650,000 advertising campaign to inform Irish citizens on its services. The company has long been the subject of criticism and has been marred by multiple controversies since its founding. It's in depth, but as I say, most of you are aware of this because Ireland's doing such a great job and the people of it are doing all they can to stand up against this austerity, so-called austerity, and basically show the rest of the UK how it's done. So the protests in Ireland are peaceful, and it is that type of protest and its broad appeal which has made this campaign the greatest mass mobilisation campaign on a single issue in our state's 92-year history. So all peace, all love, no violence, and I think they'll achieve it. I really do. Got some positive signs I hope to see from this this case, but I will get somebody from the Irish Water campaign and have them on the Flux to talk to them sometime next week. British women arrested after stripping on a plane and performing a sex act on herself. So don't worry if you're not yet scared of planes and flying or heights. The Londoner was met by police and cautioned when her flight landed at Gatwick Airport. The British woman was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in an aircraft after she stripped off on a flight from Jamaica and started performing a solo sex act. The 46-year-old woman from southwest London was wasn't it, when her British Airways flight landed at Gatwick Airport on March the 19th from Kingston, Jamaica. It was alleged that she had disrupted the flight and indecently exposed herself. She was given a police caution for being drunk on an aircraft. Drunk on an aircraft? The British Airways refused to comment any further on the incident, but confirmed that police were called to meet the flight. A spokesperson said, "We can confirm that police were requested to meet our flight from Kingston." A survey released last year showed that 1 in 7 British travellers admitted to being drunk on the plane while flying off on holiday. Half of them started drinking at the airport, while the rest began knocking back drinks on the flight. Almost a third said they had a few drinks to calm down, as they were nervous about flying, while 1 in 5 said they got drunk to pass the time. There you go, I'm not too keen on flying myself, but it's not completely off the book. So this one is: the UK police deemed Snowden investigation a state secret. British police claim a criminal investigation they launched into journalists who have reported on leaked documents from Edward Snowden has to be kept a secret due to a possibility of increased threat of terrorist activity. Following Snowden's disclosures from the National Security Agency in 2013, London's Metropolitan Police and a lawyer from the United Kingdom government separately confirmed a criminal probe had been opened into the leaks. One of the Metropolitan Police most senior officers publicly acknowledged during a parliamentary hearing that the investigation was focusing on whether reporters at The Guardian had committed criminal offences for their role in revealing British government mass surveillance operations exposed in Snowden's documents. But now the Metropolitan Police, known as the Met, says everything about the investigation's existence is a secret and too dangerous to disclose. In response to a Freedom of Information Act request from this reporter, the force has repeatedly refused to release any information about the status of the investigation, how many officers are working on it, or how much taxpayers' money has been spent. To confirm or deny whether we hold any information concerning any current or previous investigations into the alleged actions of Edward Snowden could potentially be misused, proving detrimental to national security. The Met's response: in this current environment where this is a possibility of increased threat of terrorist activity, providing any details, even to confirm or deny that any information exists, could assist any group or persons who wish to cause harm to the people of the nation, which would undermine the safeguarding of national security. The refusal notice, first issued late February and then upheld by the Met earlier this month, after an appeal, cited a series of national security and law enforcement exemptions to the United Kingdom's FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act law, as justification, not releasing any details about the investigation. So they're all keeping quiet. The Met said the information requested may have been supplied by or concerning certain security bodies that don't have to abide by normal transparency requirements, such as the Secretive Surveillance Agency, Government's Communications Headquarters, or the GCHQ as it's known. The Met also claimed that it would not be in the public interest to reveal basic information about the status of the criminal probe, because doing so could be detrimental to any investigation that may be conducted now or in the future. So we'll start the Guardians on the line for the Met to be investigating. The Met carried out searches for relevant requested information at its counter-terrorism command. According to the refusal notice, which is the unit handling the Snowden investigation, the Counter-Terrorism Command operates within the Met Specialist Operations Department and had a leading role in the Snowden-related detention and interrogation at a London airport in August of 2013 of David Miranda, the partner of an Intercept co-founder and former Guardian journalist Glenn Greenwald. When he was detained, Miranda was transporting a batch of encrypted Snowden documents to aid Greenwald's reporting on the files. The Met seized the material at the airport and 3 months later quietly announced that it had opened a criminal investigation related to the leaks, saying the material taken from Miranda was highly sensitive and could put lives at risk. The counter-terrorism detective for the force told the court the case was being viewed as likely to be a conspiracy with a global dimension. The Interceptors filed a complaint with the Information Commissioner's Office, the public body that enforces the UK's freedom of information laws, about the Met's refusal to release information about the current status of the investigation. The Commissioner will now look at how the police handled the request and decide whether they should be ordered to hand over the relevant details. Earlier this week, The Intercept asked the Met to clarify how providing information about the Snowden leaks probe could suddenly pose a threat to national security, given that one of its own senior officers had previously discussed the case publicly. The Met declined to comment. In an emailed statement issued Thursday, a spokesman for the force said only, "We won't be adding to the FOI Freedom of Information response." Keep a tight lip with your back turned, because that is the high-vis Met wearing police. There you go. Anyway, the next one. Germany pledges to stand firm in US-EU TTIP trade talks. So, Germany's economy minister has pledged to prevent any clauses in a US-EU trade deal that goes against his party's ideals. Social Democrat Sigmar Gabriel says this includes protection clauses called for by the US. Sigmar Gabriel of Germany's centre-left Social Democrats Party, who is also the country's deputy chancellor, told Munich-based newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung in an interview published on Saturday that what the SPD, the Social Democrats, doesn't want won't happen. European Commission is aiming to stop negotiation disparities from obstructing the transatlantic trade and investment partnership known as the TTIP deal. The agreement could of course encompass almost half the global economy and could potentially generate $100 billion, 92 billion euros in added economic output for the US and EU. The European Parliament and other opponents of the TTIP Code fear that the US multinationals will use a special clause, Investor State Dispute Settlement, ISDS. Sounds like something like an Ian Duncan Smith sort of thing, doesn't it? To test the Europe's laws on food, labour and environment. Many US companies argue that such regulations restrict free commerce. Washington has said it will not accept a deal without a provision allowing the ISDS challenges to the EU's usually stricter regulatory laws. The dispute centres on the use of arbitrators or independent judges to settle disputes between national government and companies that feel they have been treated unjustly, such as by a certain law or expropriation. Protesters and politicians alike have expressed concern that big companies could impose undue control over governments, thereby undermining the rule of law. Gabriel appears resolute that the EU should not accept what he calls privatisation of negotiations. Quote, "We won't accept any pressure for further liberalisation or privatisation. We won't lower any social, environment or consumer protection standards," he said. End quote. And we will not, I am completely sure of this, see any privatisation or arbitration. Opposition Greens Party member Katharina Droge, I think it is, not very good with these names, commented Saturday that Gabriel now has to deliver if his promises are supposed to be more credible this time around. Any opinion poll published by German pollsters in mid-end February shows support among the German population for the EU-US trade deal has diminished. Just 39% of respondents, MNID reported, were prepared to describe TTIP as a good thing. Well, make of that what you will, but the TTIP, do research. Definitely look into that if you're new to what it is and you think it's just something to, you know, do a bit of trade with. Have a further look into that.
The TTIP is the EU on steroids. And what it's basically doing is, if we sign up for TTIP, we then join the club and we have to abide by their rules. So if a country stops a company doing a certain thing in their country which is opposite to that country's rules, they can trump our rules by taking us to court and fining us, fining the country, that is, which means the taxpayer has to pay out the fine.
It's bad enough already, Paul. We're seeing things like these anti-fracking protectors, you know, and now the police are being involved.
Yeah, well, when TTIP comes in, we won't stand a chance. The frackers will go absolutely wild. They will go mad and they'll be putting down more wells than ever.
It is really concerning. These are like the reinforcements, and they're trying to push it in under this little deal they've got going, or trying to get going.
Yeah, and have you noticed most of you MPs that are standing to be re-elected, they will not be talking about TTIP like they didn't talk about the EU.
We will be looking into TTIP very closely, you and I, over the next week. Is that correct? I do believe. Yeah, we're going to be keeping his eyes open on this and bringing you what we find. So the next one, the last one for the Flux today is don't compare the EU with US. Fracking costs exceed benefits for Europe, the study says. The impact of fracking on the environment and health in Europe is disproportionate to the gains derived from this drilling method. The new study says, adding that its cost effectiveness is also under question. We should not compare the conditions in Germany with those in the United States, said Werner Zill, the author of the study released by the Energy Watch Group, an international network of scientists and parliamentarians as cited by the Euractiv. Zill says the Germany is much more densely populated than the United States, adding this increases risks for both the environment and people near fracking sites. The report says that severe environmental damage is seen in the US due to fracking, where the technique is widely used. Scientific studies have proved that the method is closely linked to earthquakes, which have recently increased in some parts of America where fracking is rife. However, human and environmental hazards aren't the only disadvantages of this questionable method of extraction. According to the president of the Energy Watch Group, Hans-Josef Fell, its cost effectiveness is also a matter of debate. Unlike in the United States, which is the only country conducting fracking at a commercially relevant scale, the method cannot achieve a sufficient result from extraction in Europe, Fell said. The report warned that according to the current estimates, there will be a disproportionate amount of money spent on a method that can only supply Europe with energy for a decade. It is completely incomprehensible that government policy in support of fracking predominates from Brussels to London and all the way to Berlin at the burden of environmental protection and against the will of the population affected. Meanwhile, this behaviour is putting more and more pressure on the expansion of renewables, Fell said. Hubertus Zibdel, an environment specialist for the Left Party in the German parliament, believes big energy companies will be the only ones to gain from fracking. Under current allocation practices for licensed areas in Germany, the only ones who will profit short-term from the growth in this kind of natural gas are big energy companies like ExxonMobil, Wintershall and GDF Suez. These energy giants have declared a race for shale gas and have already divided up entire regions among themselves, he said. Fracking or hydraulic fracturing is a controversial technique that includes drilling for fossil fuels using water, sand and chemicals under high pressure through drill holes to blast open shale rock. Opponents argue it has been linked to groundwater contamination, heightened earthquake activity, exacerbation of drought conditions, and a variety of health concerns for humans. The recent report comes a month after Berlin proposed a draft law to allow commercial shale gas fracking at depths of over 3,000 meters. A vote on the draft in the Bundestag will take place in May. If passed, the legislation would only concern fracking of shale oil and tight gas in water protection and spring healing zones. It is important to have a legal framework for hydraulic fracturing, as until now there has been no legislation on the subject. The President of Germany's Federal Environmental Agency, Maria Kreuzberger, said, Germany is estimated to have up to 2.3 trillion cubic meters of shale gas reserves. Under the current fracking ban, there have been a decline in domestic production. If fracking is allowed, domestic natural gas production could go up, with fuel and electricity prices allegedly going to be going down in Germany, which has some of the highest electricity costs in the EU. So, still not giving up the battle, are they, for the fight for fracking?
Well, the fact that unconventional fracturing is not economically viable, and the only way the gas companies are going to get a proper return for their shareholder value is the fact that they're going to be pumping, after the gas has been removed, they're going to be pumping radioactive waste down there.
Yeah.
And that will leak into the aquifers, etc. And that's where they're going to make their money. That's why they're pushing so hard. The actual extraction is economically unviable, and it will not make your gas prices any cheaper. So no matter how many times you hear you're going to get cheaper gas, you are being given misinformation. Because the companies are going to make on the back end by pumping radioactive waste down through into your geological strata, which has been fractured and will be leaking into your aquifers, and then your water is then at risk. And that is why these big companies are buying the main water, because then your little bottle of water, which maybe don't cost you much money now, will be at premium costs when there will be a shortage of water, because the millions of gallons they use for the fracturing to put in with the slurry to fracture is unredeemable, which means that water is never able to be used for drinking, cooking, bathing, washing, or anything you require water for. It is absolutely unusable and unredeemable. So your little bottle of water will cost you the earth.
Yeah, well, water's costing more than oil, and this is, it is definitely one of my main concerns, really, this, because I don't think if we were to let this go ahead, I don't think we've got much time to do much about it once it's gone full force. I'm afraid it's something you can't really reverse, can you?
No, it's definitely unreversible once they start ruining geological strata. Because they've got no, because it fractures at the weakest points. Sorry, PJ, go ahead, I'm butting in.
It's alright, Paul. I was just saying they can. I'm sure they'd be able to prove it, like the actual planet, the Earth, will heal itself from any. You know, that's probably right, but that's no good to the human beings living on it, is it? At the time.
No, the actual aquifers take millions of years to build themselves up with their water stocks, and once it's poisoned and contaminated, it's going to take millions of years to get clear again. Not a matter of a few years, but millions of years.
Well, you know, how long have we been going on about this now, Paul? Fracking, and it's every day, isn't it? Every day there's always some oil group trying to get their mitts on money. That's all it's about. Just a quick sell, and then they'll just pack up and do one. That's what they'll do.
Yeah, but what I'm really saying to people is, don't get hung up. Although the extraction is poisonous to our health, our environment, etc., etc., it's going to be multi-poisonous once they start pumping in that radioactive waste.
It's mad, isn't it? Nonsense. What people up to these days is just beyond belief sometimes. Well, there you go. Those that do go out there and, you know, been to all the camps up and down UK, what they've had going so far, great work, much appreciated. All the love from me personally, you know. Yeah, doing excellent work, and I'm hoping to do what I can, you know, my own fair share as well as you, Blackhole, because I know you're dead against the fracking, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm against it because it's our children and our grandchildren's futures that are going to be totally annihilated. If there isn't water...
I don't rant and rave anymore about it, Paul, because people they can't take it in whether you're... whether you sit them, even if you sit them down, even if you were to sit somebody down with a nice cup of Scottish tea, right, at £10 a cup, and just and calmly taught them and educated them about the dangers of fracking, they still wouldn't know. They still won't know. There's people here who just they think, oh well, I want my bills to be cheaper. That's all they think of. If it makes my bills cheaper, I'm all for it.
Yeah, but the gas bills will not be cheaper. That's where they're being so misled.
No, they won't be. That's for sure. Anyway, that's the end of the Flux today. Thank you very much for tuning in to watch the articles we put forth. Do join us again, hopefully tomorrow, for some more Flux news. Thanks for now. Bye bye.
Good night.